I'm Amy Best. I'm the Senior Director of the Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning here at Southern Connecticut State University. We are the non-credit professional development arm of Southern, and we've been only open for about a year now, so we're a pretty new office. But we're very excited to bring programming, lifelong learning, to partner with the Alumni Association for this inaugural event for Wise Owls. And we hope we have many more events and that we continue to grow our programming for all of you. Tonight, I'm very excited to introduce you to Jess Gregory. Jess is a professor here at Southern, and she is in our educational leadership program. She is also the department chair. She's also teaching a class for the Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning on AI, AI fundamentals for workforce success. So we're in good hands tonight with Jess, and she is going to teach us everything you ever wanted to know about AI all in under an hour, right? No,
Yeah,
definitely going to
nothing.
give us, though, a nice overview so that you all have a little bit better of an understanding of this new and emerging technology. So with no more further ado, I will silence myself and I will let Jess take the floor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jess. I'm also an alum of Southern. And so there's also that I'm a Southern trained teacher. And so today we're going to do a little mishmash because everybody's in a different spot where it comes to AI. And so I've pulled together some different ideas. And so I kind of just wanted to start with sort of an introduction, like how or to what degree is AI actually revolutionizing the way we live and work? And when you think about it, right? No, I'm jumping ahead of myself. AI basically is revolutionizing things where it's, you know, automating processes, helping us make decisions, personalizing experiences. Like in business, it is optimizing marketing. And so all of a sudden, you'll be getting things that are targeted right for you because you happen to be looking at something. It knows that you were looking at something, it pulls the information. And so then all of a sudden, your advertising gets skewed towards that. It improves customer service by using chatbots so you can ask questions and get responses in real time when there isn't necessarily a person available to respond. In business, it streamlines supply chains by making predictions about what people are going to need and where. In medicine, it helps in diagnosing things, discovering drugs, helping to monitor patients so it can help move resources to meet the needs of patients and doctors. In education, closest to my heart, it's helping because it's personalizing learning. You can have tools help differentiate with a teacher's expertise, but it can also help a student access content at different levels. If someone's learning a new language like Spanish, or maybe someone's learning English, it can help streamline that and enhance instruction. It can help in lots of different ways. And some of the ways I like to use it are tasks that would have taken me a lot of stress. I can use AI to get it started, and then I just tweak it. So it would have taken me a long time to pick a good picture for a slide to introduce myself. Instead, I gave AI my headshot and a picture of someone playing pickleball, and I asked it to create an image of me that was in a cartoon style. I wanted a comic book style, and it created this image that I can share with you. And so if I click on the correct part of the screen, so when AI hit the news, it's so new. But then I was thinking about it, I'm like, this really isn't that new. Like I remember Microsoft and one of my first computers, Clippy would pop up and like, hey, it looks like you're trying to write a letter. Would you like help with that? And Clippy was an early version of AI. What is different now, and when you think about Google versus AI is creating something new. So I can ask Google a question, and Google will comb the internet and find me things that already exist to answer my question. Generative artificial intelligence can actually use a fancy, wonderful, beautiful math equation to predict in natural language what response might come. So it's actually creating something new. So I can ask AI to create a song about the benefits of AI to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and it will create that song for me. And so that's something Google can't do. And so that's what's fancy about AI. But with that, there's also challenges, right? Because the beautiful math equation that creates this prediction was trained on information that already existed. It was trained on large data sets. A lot of information culled from the internet, but a lot of that information was generated by people who look a lot like me and who are from the Western society. And so there's a lot of cultural bias inherent in the information available to train the model. And so whenever we're taking information through generative AI, we want to recognize that it may have embedded issues when it comes to biases. And what's nice is the models do learn. And so they've actually been getting better over time, recognizing their own bias and adapting to them. But that also creates a new challenge, is that sometimes it makes stuff up. And so generative AI, if you ask it for a picture of the founding fathers, might actually give you a very racially diverse picture of the founding fathers, which isn't accurate anymore. And when that happens, it's called a hallucination. And so even though AI offers a lot of benefits, it actually also has challenges in that you need to make sure you keep yourself or another human in the loop to make sure that you aren't reproducing any harms by using it. Does that make sense? I can see your faces, so I'm looking for nonverbal here. All right, I got a thumbs up. I'll take it. All right, so challenges in AI, unintentional harms, that it was trained on information that might not represent the whole of all there is in humanity. And something else to note is that when you feed something into a generative artificial intelligence program, it stays in there for the most part. Unless you have a setting specifically set up to not include it, it learns from your asks. And so you want to make sure that you're not feeding the program anything that needs to stay private. And so you don't provide any information to any artificial intelligence program that could be stored and then used in an unauthorized way. Banking information, private information, I wouldn't even give it my birthday. And so when I'm using artificial intelligence, I'm using a fake email address, just because I don't want my real email address going in there and possibly being sold as data for marketing purposes. So whenever you're using something like this, do think about like, okay, what am I okay sharing? And what do I not want to share? Keep my mouse so I click on the right spot. So, okay, so then how do I actually do this? Right? It's enough talking about what AI is or isn't and how to be careful. AI works really well when you ask them a good question. And so that question is called a prompt. And so whenever you're asking AI to do something for you, you put a prompt in, and then it uses the information you've given it to predict what is reasonable for a response. And so I could ask it to read something for me and create a social media post. Now, would I really do this? No, probably not. I might ask it to write a mildly praising letter for a restaurant I tried. So a prompt, when you create it, you give it instructions. And so you might tell it how long you want it to be. You might tell it how to feel about it, what sort of tone you want. What are you interested in it talking about? If you know what source you want it to use. And a great thing is to think about, what audience is this for? So right before we started, I was like, you know what? Let me ask a question to AI. And so I asked a question and I gave it a pretty vague question, like, what are some new uses for AI that everyone might be interested in? And I got so much information. I'm like, well, that is not actually helpful. So then I was like, okay, summarize that response in 75 words. And then I got something that I could actually use. And so when you give AI a prompt, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about doing a great job the first time, because it's a conversation. You can say, oh, yeah, I don't really love this part of your response. I like this part. Can you expand on the second half of your response and minimize the first part? And it will do it. You can also say, oh, I need this to be in a more friendly tone. Can you revise this letter so that it's in a friendly tone or an academic tone? I can ask AI to edit for me. Can you check this for sentence ending prepositions? Or can you read this and tell me what you saw of the 3 main points? And that way I can see whether I rambled or whether I actually communicated my points effectively. So in terms of a prompt, there are certain elements, your format and length, what you want it to do, if you know where you want it to draw the information from, and what style or tone you want it to use. But if you don't like the response, just tell the AI, I don't like that response. Can you give me another one? And it will. And it won't get its feelings hurt because it doesn't have any, which is nice. And so I asked, all right, AI, write me a letter to the Southern Connecticut Gas Company, thanking them for the work they did on my street. Now I put in Southern's address because I'm not giving my real address. Say the workers were courteous. And so I was like, all right, give me this letter. And I was like, well, why don't I try it a couple different ways? So I went to Google's Gemini and I went to Chat GPT. And these might be a little small for you, but basically they came up with very similar letters that were ready for me to personalize. I have everything I need. This took about 15 to 20 seconds for it to generate these letters. And all I want to have to do is go in and edit the letter now. I don't start from a blank page anymore, which for me, someone who is super math-tacular, and while I've written a few books, I don't actually enjoy writing at all. It is wonderful to not start from a blank page. It's so helpful. So Gemini and Chat GPT gave me something very similar. For Google's Gemini, it is currently free. You just put in your Gmail account. And so you can actually make a Gmail account that is different so that you can go in and use Gemini. Chat GPT, there's a free version and a paid version. The paid version obviously has a few more features, but they both will give you what you want. And there's other versions of AI tools as well that are all drawing from databases, but the exact way they pull from the information and the exact databases they're pulling from differ. And that's why we got slightly different letters from Chat GPT and Gemini. If I had chosen Bard or Llama, I might have gotten a slightly different letter, but that's okay. It's going to give me the same thing, a starting place. And so it's a helpful way to get started, but that's not the only way you can use these tools. AI is embedded in applications. So if I'm looking for a way to keep my mind sharp, I could use an AI powered app that would give me maybe puzzles or memory games or cognitive training exercises that would learn from me and get personalized. And so that's why AI powered apps are useful, because they can really learn about you to make it a little more entertaining for you. They can learn about your pace or your interests, and they can adapt to your needs, making it easier or more challenging based on what you need. And so I really want to make sure that there's time for discussion. So I went super fast, but I'm happy to go back and go through whatever you want to talk about. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I don't have any questions in the chat yet, but I did get some questions before we started. And so I got the question, how will AI impact the typical adult? And also I noticed Google searches are coming up with AI results first. How do I know whether to trust this info? And so I believe, thank you very much, Sean. I believe that a typical adult has already been impacted by AI in lots of ways. Whenever I go shopping online, it is offering me like, hey, do you want to ask any questions about this? Or when I go to the library's website, it's like chat with a librarian. I'm not always chatting with an actual person, right? AI is helping me get the information I want. And so AI is impacting me learning Spanish using an application. AI is helping me choose a next vacation. But this great part of the question about Google searches are coming up with AI results first. How do I know whether I can trust this information? I would say if you're looking at information and it doesn't ring true, always check it, right? Because AI can hallucinate, and you want to make sure that you don't promote information by sharing it that isn't accurate. And so it might be great. Oh yeah, that's kind of what I thought. All right, so I'm going to roll with that response, or that response matches, because Google will put the AI generated one at top, and then it will give you sources. The AI generated doesn't seem to match, then I'm going to keep looking at those other sources. If it does, then okay. Edward went ahead and put a great question in the chat. What could be the future of songwriting, poetry, and the novel? So, Edward, great question. I have a neighbor a few houses down who has been using AI to create children's books, which is pretty interesting, but they all end up a little creepy. And so it could be that he hasn't figured out how to craft his prompts super well to get less creepy children's books. I don't think that AI has the ability to evoke emotion the way humans do. And I think that's why art that humans generate is going to be safe. What I think is going to be interesting is non-evocative art or representational art. I think that that will be very difficult with deep fakes and other things. Will be very difficult to as an artist, it would be difficult for me to justify using AI to create something and then me explain my process. So for me, I would have to disclose how I was using it, just because that, does that make sense? I saw your little nod. All right. Teresa, do you recommend always using a fake email address? Oh, absolutely. I have several email addresses. Each cat has an email address. Most of my classes have their own email addresses. So if you ever want to find me, just look SCSU, EDL, and then some course number. It's probably my email address. I know that the cats will get magazines and offers of insurance. As soon as you put the information out there, it's used. And so I really do get fake email addresses and use, Sophie Shadow gets magazines for free. And then all of a sudden she's getting offers for car insurance and, Allstate's going to take care of her. I don't want to see that cat drive. I don't think she'd make good choices behind the wheel. How accurate is AI when it summarizes a class lecture? If I'm feeding the information, it does a great job. If I'm asking it to take notes in a meeting, it does okay, but it doesn't know what's important and what isn't. So I was in a meeting and we were having sort of one of those off-topic conversations before the meeting started, and it included it in the minutes. Oh, that would be awesome. It included in the minutes how we were going to help her get her daughter's hair colored. That's not important in the minutes, but AI doesn't know. And that's why you need the human in the loop. So yes, I could use AI to summarize a class lecture, but I would always want to check it. Same thing, I would counsel my students in class, if they're taking notes on an article for their dissertation or something, they could then look at that article. If it's something that's not readily available on the internet, I ask them not to put it into AI, right? Because anything you put in could be saved. But if it was something that they found for free on the internet, they could then go ahead and put that into AI and see how their summary matched up with AI's summary. And that's another way to use AI to sort of check what's your understanding. So that's a nice way. I don't know that the cats are actually going to set up a play date, but maybe they could have like a Zoom call. So another question that came in while you guys are still thinking of questions in the chat, another question that came in before the session was, how might this be of benefit to aging populations? So some ways I mentioned earlier, like when it comes to health monitoring, you could actually have AI help look for red flags when it comes to early detection of illnesses. I don't know that I personally would do this because health information is so sensitive. But if I, like September 16th, might have had knee surgery, I could ask AI to give me a protocol for, when I'm done with my physical therapy, what other things can I do to ensure the health of my meniscus, right? I'm interested in not having that surgery again. I didn't enjoy the surgery. I don't want to do it again. So I can ask AI to give me some ideas on how to continue my own success so that I don't have to go through that again. I can also, moving away from health, go through smart technology for my house. I can have it help me set up schedules for turning on lights at different times. So even if I go to sleep nice and early, although not tonight, but if I go to sleep nice and early, my house doesn't necessarily look like I went to sleep very early. I can, my watch can tell if I fall and help call someone, right? All this is something that helps using this technology. And so it's embedded in a lot of things we don't even recognize are using it. You can also use it to combat isolation. If you're having a conversation with AI, it can respond in real time. You can also use it to role play conversations to check on things. Oh, and one awesome thing, I thought I was going to make this super awesome chocolate dessert, but I was missing one of the items for the recipe. So I was like, I don't want to go to the store. So I entered the recipe, I entered the pieces I had and asked AI to give me 7 recipes that use these ingredients. And then I saw one that I kind of liked and I was like, okay, well, what if we swapped out this ingredient? Would it still work? and it tweaked the recipe for the ingredients I had in my kitchen. And I was so grateful for that. Sean offered that he's put doctor's notes into AI without his name to get a deeper understanding, and it was really helpful. So that's a great strategy, Sean. Thank you so much for sharing that. Someone asked, how can I quickly learn as much as I can about AI? All right, well, that's a really big question. There are courses, like Coursera has a course, OWL, the Office of, now I don't want to mess this up. Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning has multiple sessions running for courses, but you can actually ask an AI tool to tell you about itself, right? It's aware of itself. You can ask it for help writing a prompt. You can ask it to make recommendations on reading if you want to read about AI. What's super nice about this is it's happening now. People are aware of it now. And so lots more keeps getting raised, and you don't have to know a lot to become the most knowledgeable person in a room right now on AI, which is a kind of awesome way to be, right? You're going to leave this session with a decent enough information to get into trouble. And that's just a great way to be. Oh, Renee, that's a great question. Renee asked, how is AI detection used in colleges and universities to address plagiarism, cheating, for example, take-home exams, dissertations, exams? I think exams is very important to Renee. I would say it's used very poorly. Not because people don't want to use it, but because as soon as AI detection gets good at recognizing artificial intelligence changes. And so the best thing we can do is change the way we're doing assessments so that plagiarism is more challenging. When I'm working with my students, I actually will encourage them to use artificial intelligence to tweak their writing. I have some students who want to be administrators, and some of their sentences are ending with prepositions. And I'm like, I understand what you mean, but people might judge you because you just finished a sentence with a preposition. And that's probably not the look you want as you're going for a job as an administrator, or when you're in the role as an administrator. It's not a great look if you're not obeying rules of grammar. And so I suggest they use a tool like Grammarly or any of the other AI tools. AI is artificial intelligence. The fact that when I spell something wrong in Microsoft Word, it gets underlined in red. It doesn't do that when I write on the whiteboard. We got to work on our whiteboard technology. But that's artificial intelligence recognizing that I spelled there with my I before my E or my E before my I, right? So we're already using artificial intelligence. Generative artificial intelligence is something that if you craft an assignment that is not recall, it's not going to do a great job. So if you personalize the assignment and ask them to reflect on how they felt during this or how they engaged in it, that makes it a lot harder for issues like plagiarism to happen. If I write an assignment that asks them to summarize the main themes of Remarkably Bright Creatures, there's very little that I can do to keep AI from doing that essay for them. So as an instructor, I tweaked my assignments so that I can't say they're AI proof, but they're AI resistant. So very much focusing on the learning, but also the conversation about why we would use AI and what's the purpose of education. So Renee, if I'm having a conversation with my students and focusing on why they're in higher education, why they're taking this class, right? It's about the learning, it's not about a grade, then they are less likely to use AI to circumvent their learning, right? We have to get on the same page about what's the purpose. If the purpose is learning, then AI can't learn for them. AI can do an assignment, but it can't do the learning. So that's kind of where I am on that. But bottom line is AI detection does a lousy job at detecting itself. Because something like Grammarly that might just be tweaking someone's writing, but not their ideas, would come up as AI detection. So it'd be 100% AI and would get flagged. I think it's an opportunity for higher education going forward, but I think it's already an opportunity in P12. So I think higher ed might be a little behind the 8 ball when it comes to this. In P12, they've already been working with the AI detection. I think that students in P12 were hopping on to using ChatGPT to help with their assignments before the kids in higher ed were. So I think they've got a little a head start, and we can borrow some of their strategies in personalizing the work, offering different types of ways to express learning that aren't the traditional methods. So that's something. Feel free to keep putting more questions in the chat. I have another one. How important do I think AI will become in the future? I kind of want to flip that around on you guys. How important do you think AI will become in the future? I mean, we're already seeing it in terms of developing the ability for autonomously driving cars. We're seeing it being used in tailoring. I love that it tailors instruction to help meet the needs of students with lots of different learning needs. But I think AI is already super important. And so I don't know that it will become in the future. Yeah, I think it's going to keep becoming more important in the future. Another question was how to enter into AI on a home computer. So one thing you can do is go on to, it's www.gemini.google. Go to gemini.google, and this is a free version. And so you can practice putting together prompts. It's very hands-on. You just go right to Gemini and you ask it to create a recipe for you, offer you anything you want. What I would say is remember the difference between a Google search and a generative AI prompt, right? Google search is like, what type of bird has the white belly and gray feathers on the back, right? And it's going to give you a whole bunch of different ones. It's going to show you pictures of a mockingbird or a junco. It's going to give you lots of options, and you just try to figure out, okay, well, what did I actually see out there? Generative AI you could ask it, all right, I want to create a story about a mockingbird who meets a junco. Can you create 6 lines of dialogue between these two birds about how awesome the bird seed that Jess put out this morning was? And it will generate 6 lines of dialogue between these two imaginary birds about how awesome the bird seed we put out this morning was. That's very important work. Fake dialogue about fake birds, about the really delicious bird seed, but AI can do that for you. What other questions do you have? Because I clearly come up with pearls of wisdom. Oh, Otis the owl to everyone. First of all, props to you spelling Otis correctly. Is the self-awareness sphere legitimate as it relates to robotics, androids, etc.? I don't know, Otis. So Isaac Asimov, who is a science fiction writer who made some crazy, amazing predictions about future technologies, I believe Isaac Asimov would say, yeah, we definitely need to be aware of that, the self-awareness sphere. I don't know, because of the idea of hallucinations, because we need the human in the loop, I don't know that it's worth having that fear now. I think it is legitimate, but not worth your energy. Does that make sense? So, Otis, I want to validate your fear, but I don't want you to spend any time or energy on it. What other questions? Will AI become involved in the decision-making process, was asked before we started today. I think it already is involved in the decision-making process. What I think is very interesting, and one reason we want to be very aware and sensitive to the biases inherent in AI, is it's already used to do things like screen resumes. It's called AI augmented decision making, where AI would do a screening through a big batch of resumes and sort of pull the cream of the crop to be reviewed by a human. All right. But that means that there's people who might not get reviewed by a human at all based on their resume. And that's kind of problematic, because if I put dates down for when I graduated, I might not be as valuable a candidate, because they're like, oh, well, she's going to retire in 15 minutes. Why are we going to hire her? That's clearly age discrimination. But that wasn't a human doing it. That was the bot. So what I want to think about is, I might even use AI to remove dates from my resume, so that I would, hey, say, okay, yes, I graduated, but you don't necessarily need to know the year I graduated, right? That's not important to the story. And so, recognizing that AI might be used to screen them, then I could almost AI proof my resume. All right, so Renee, I see that, and I'm going to work on that while I answer Edward's question. Do you see similar advantages to industrial creativity you mentioned with regards to the blank page? For example, designers can see ideas, concepts to set the stage. Edward, heck yes. That is totally a thing. It is so difficult to get started from something blank. It is something where people are doing coding can use some open source code that's doing something similar and then ask AI to help. They also can, well, actually, I can do two birds with one stone. Renee, this is where I got you, girl. All right, so Renee asked if we could try something in real time so you guys can see it working. So I pulled up ChatGPT 4.0, and what I'm going to do is make my window a different shape so it's easier for me to work with. And I'm going to make it a little bigger so you can see that. And I'm going to ask it for imagine you are offering a professional learning session on how AI can be used to inspire creativity, in industry, provide, I don't know, 8 examples of how AI could be used. Please be brief with each example. Now, I might not have had to be polite, but it never hurts to say please. All right. So design assistance, creative writing, fashion and innovation. What one do we want more from? Throw a number in the chat. Throw a number in the chat. Which do you want to see more? I'm going to ask it to give me more about one of them. All right, Edward, we got number one. Oh, and two. All right, I got this. All right. Can you give me more explanation for numbers 1 and 2 with a specific example for each? And it doesn't matter if I spell wrong, AI knows what I mean. I got you, Sandra. We'll do 6. Also, could you outline how number 6 could be done? Please be specific. All right. Now, ChatGPT, I'm using the application on my computer, but I also could just go to ChatGPT, which is on the web, and could do either of that. The same thing you could do with Google Gemini or any other tool. My initial prompt, I'm going to scroll, so watch your eyes. My initial prompt, I told it what I wanted. I kind of shaped what it gave me. If I didn't say, please be brief with each example, it would have given me pages of stuff. I told us the context, right? So I didn't want it to give me something that was impractical. So I said it was professional learning session. I tried to shape what it was offering me so that it gave me something good. If I asked it for sources, it would have given me sources. It's not always great at giving me real sources. So each of the sources it would give me, I would then want to check. Renee, did that give you sort of what you were looking for? Now I'm going to go through that little bit of wait time to see what else pops up in the chat. So while we are waiting for that, one question that came up beforehand, oh, awesome, was, will using AI increase or decrease my creativity? I don't know, right? I mean, that's not a question I am prepared to answer. I've thought that maybe I had a sixth sense at times. I can read people's vibes, but I don't know if you're a person who's inspired by a blank page or inhibited by a blank page. So I don't know how to answer that. I think there are definitely people for whom having an exemplar stifles their creativity because they want it to match what they saw. But other people aren't bothered by that. So for them, it would definitely increase their creativity. So let's see, did I miss? How important do I think? No, I've answered that. I think I answered all the pre-question questions. All right, so now I'm totally dependent on you. I need fresh questions. It's a discussion. Help me, friends. So then I'll just, while I'm waiting for another question, I'll just share a story. We were sitting on the porch where we feed the birds. Oh, what really surprised me? Yeah. Oh, I got you, Sandra. So, not while we were sitting on the porch. I'm going to be working on a project with another friend at work, and he and I have our wisdom highlights. And I was like, okay, you know what? Why don't I look for AI to create an image of the two of us looking at data and being super excited about it? So I asked AI to generate an image of two professors looking at data who are really excited. Can I tell you how creepy those images were? So creepy. So I was like, okay, make it someone without glasses. Now, sure, both of us do wear glasses, but every image of a professor was someone who was wearing glasses. And I was like, well, that's rude. You know, we don't all wear glasses. I can take them off and still sort of see. Nope, it couldn't do it. I asked it to give the gentleman less hair. AI did not know how to conceive of a professor who liked data but had thinning hair. Like, they didn't know how to do it. I basically broke AI trying to ask it to give me a balding image. Also, I was always really attractive. And I mean, of course, I am, but AI didn't know that. So, you know, there's certain things that it doesn't know how to handle. It doesn't know how to handle making a middle-aged woman and a middle-aged guy with thinning hair looking at data. It was like, it does not compute. Like, everybody's beautiful and with incredibly symmetrical features. Our hair is never frizzy. It just doesn't know how to handle that. So that really surprised me, that there was no diversity in beauty. And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, okay, it's trained on the internet. Everybody filters what it is they look like on the internet. All those advertising images are all beautiful, symmetrical, featured people. So yeah, all right, that makes sense. If I specifically ask for images of people with exceptionalities, or even like teddy bears with exceptionalities, I will get beautiful images of teddy bears with cochlear implants or teddy bears with wheelchairs. Like, it knows how to do exceptionalities when I'm specific about what I'm looking for. If I say middle-aged professors looking at data who are happy to be looking at data, it doesn't know what to do with that. Teresa, at what age will children in school be using AI? I think it depends on the school. I think it depends on the community. And I am sure that the children have already been using AI before they got to school. They just didn't realize they were using it. Anytime a parent gives a child or a caregiver gives a child the iPad, they probably have already been giving the child access to artificial intelligence. I think you want to model good behaviors and stewardship about personal information and data in elementary school and middle school and high school and undergraduate and graduate. I do not think we can say that enough about how you need to protect your information and protect everything. I think there's so much. I think people are very willing to share their information in ways that might come back to harm them. It's scary. Like, that, I think, is scarier than AI becoming self-aware. I think it is way more likely that someone is going to use the information that people have offered up for nefarious purposes. I don't think it's the technology that's going to be the bad guy. I think it's the person or people behind the technology. Otis, great question. What current technology products exist that you would recommend a tech-averse individual can use to assist in their day-to-day? Otis, it depends on what you want to do. I would probably start with something like Google's Gemini, just because it's right there and you don't have to look too hard. You don't have to look anywhere to find it. If so, I was helping a friend write a letter to the Attorney General, William Tong, and we drafted the points, and then we asked the AI to just make sure that we didn't have any grammar errors and to make sure that this was as concise and clear as possible, right? Because if I want the Attorney General, if we wanted him to read the letter, it had to be kind of short. And so we asked it to help us streamline it, and it did make it better. So I think, Otis, I would recommend using Gemini right away. All of them are very, very similar. So whatever is going to be the most comfortable for you and you're going to dip your toe in, I would do something silly first, so it's low stakes. But yeah, I would just say try it. Bob, I know that from what you've said that Southern students are getting exposure. How is it being used in the college classroom? Great question, Bob. I think it depends on the professor. I would say that there is a lot of interest and a lot of concern. And so the earlier question we had about plagiarism and sort of AI proofing exams, I think there's a lot of desire to recognize AI. I don't know, Bob, how much people are integrating AI into what they're doing transparently. I think there's a lot of AI behind the scenes because AI can do a great job coming up with warm-up activities. The other day, I was planning for a session I'm going to be doing for the Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. And I was like, oh, generate 15 warm-up questions about AI that will get conversation started. And I was like, I don't have to think about this all on my own. I asked it for 15. I needed 5. I got 15. I was like, oh, I really like number 3. Give me more like number 3. Can I get 7 more like number 3? And it gave me 7 more. So I used AI to come up with my warm-ups to get started. So I used AI to help plan for AI. So AI is great for lesson planning. Not everybody who teaches in higher education develops a formal lesson plan. And so, you know, as a Southern trained teacher, I come up with a lesson plan for whatever I'm doing. And so I like me a good lesson plan that has an initiation, development, and a closure. And so my initiation activities are generally a warm-up question, like how to get some creative juices flowing. So how is it being used in the college classroom? I would say I can't answer that with any confidence. I would say some people are using it a lot. I would say some people aren't using it at all. And there's probably a lot of people in the middle who are using it to come up with ideas, but may not be explicitly teaching it in the classroom. And then there are going to be other people who are. And so it's an ongoing conversation, but that conversation's still pretty young. It's 7:57, so I feel like I should move towards the closure activity. My closure activity for you, all right? Get your fingers ready near your keyboard, and I'd like you to type this, but don't hit enter until we say, all right? So your keyboard, you're poised at your keyboard, you're ready to type, I feel blank about AI. So what are your feelings currently about AI? Don't hit enter yet. Just type it. We'll give everybody a chance to type something. How are you feeling about AI right now? All right, while you're typing how you feel, I have one more question that just came in. How would educators encourage positive uses of AI? It's through that relationship building, that conversation about the purpose of education. Why are we here? Why are we spending our time together? Right? If we're talking about the learning, then the uses of AI you're going to have are the positive ones. If we're not all on the same page in terms of what our purpose is here, then it's going to be really hard to make sure that the use we have of AI is positive, because some people might just be there to pass the time or jump through a hoop. And that's not really what we're there for as an educator. All right. So everybody hit enter. How are you feeling about AI? All right, we got nervous. Oh, that was sweet. I got a shout out. Anxious about the misuse. Absolutely. Apprehensive and hopeful. Love it. Excited, optimistic. Try a few new things. Wonderful. Okay, less creative. Then go with the blank page, Marilyn. Power to you. All right. Oh, I love tweaking interest. Love it. All right, friends, it is 7:59. I always want to make sure that we start and end. I am also not excited about abuse, but I also think that we have the power to shift that conversation. We have the power to keep it positive, and by being transparent about what our goals are, we can keep it a positive rather than a nefarious use. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and have a great night, everybody. Thank you.